Have you ever looked at your cat and wondered, where did you come from? I mean, really wondered. Besides the living room, I mean. Well, believe it or not, every single house cat, from that fluffy Persian to the one that looks like it just rolled out of bed, can trace its family tree back to one wild ancestor. It's called the African wildcat. Picture it, a bit taller, leggier, and living its best solitary life on the savannas of Africa and the Middle East. They were perfectly happy hunting on their own, not asking for a thing. So, how did they end up on our couches, judging our life choices? It's a fantastic story. The whole thing started about 10,000 years ago in a place called the Fertile Crescent. This is where humans first got really good at farming. We were growing all this grain, storing it up, and feeling very proud of ourselves. But guess who else loved our grain? Mice and rats. Lots and lots of them. It was an all-you-can-eat buffet, and they invited all their friends. It was a huge problem. But for the local African wildcats, this wasn't a problem. It was an opportunity. They saw this massive gathering of rodents and thought, well, hello there, dinner. It was the perfect setup. This is where the story gets really interesting, because we didn't go out and find them. They found us. The theory is called self-domestication, which is a fancy way of saying cats chose to hang around us. It makes so much sense, right? Unlike dogs, which we actively trained for hunting and protection, cats just showed up for the food. The wildcats that were a little braver, a little less scared of all the human activity, got closer to the grain stores. And because they got closer, they caught more mice. They were healthier, had more kittens, and passed on those not-so-scared-of-people genes. They basically domesticated themselves for a better meal plan. And we have proof that this friendship started a long, long time ago. Forget what you know about Egypt for a second, because this is even older. Archaeologists found a grave on the island of Cyprus that was 9,600 years old. Inside, they found a person buried right next to a cat. Not just any cat, but a young one, which suggests it was a pet. They were buried together, as companions. This tells us that even before we built pyramids or invented cat videos, humans and cats had already formed a special bond. They weren't just our pest control, they were becoming our friends. Isn't that amazing? So, cats were our new roommates, taking care of the rodent problem. For thousands of years, that was the deal. It was a good deal. But then, along came ancient Egypt, and everything changed. Around 3,600 years ago, cats in Egypt got a major promotion. They went from being useful hunters to being treated like royalty, and even gods. I mean, talk about a glow-up. They were so respected that the goddess Bastet was often shown with the head of a cat. She represented protection, pleasure, and good health. People loved cats so much that harming one was a serious crime. The Egyptians saw cats as more than just cute. They were protectors of the home, symbols of grace, and were believed to bring good fortune. They were so important that wealthy families would dress them in jewels and feed them the best food. When a family's cat passed away, the entire family would mourn, sometimes even shaving their eyebrows as a sign of their grief. It sounds intense, but it shows you just how deeply they were loved. They weren't just pets, they were part of the family, and a very important part at that. It was the ultimate cat-friendly society. But here's a little twist in the story. It wasn't all just love and worship. Archaeologists have found huge collections of mummified cats in Egypt. We're talking tons of them. It turns out, many of these cats were bred specifically to be sacrificed in religious rituals to the goddess Bastet. It was a kind of offering. So, while some cats lived a life of luxury, others were part of a massive industry. It's a bit of a darker side to the story, but it shows that humans had started managing and breeding cats on a large scale. The relationship was getting more complicated. And what did these famous Egyptian cats look like? Were they some exotic royal breed? Nope. Genetic studies of these ancient cat mummies have shown that they were most likely tabbies. That's right, the common striped cats you see everywhere today. They looked a lot like their wildcat ancestors, just with those familiar tabby stripes. So, the cats that were worshipped as gods weren't some fancy special breed. They were just regular cats who had charmed their way into the hearts, homes, and even the religion of an entire civilization. It just goes to show you, a tabby can do anything. Okay, so we know cats came to us for food, and the Egyptians worshipped them. But how did they go from being independent hunters to the cuddly creatures who demand our attention 24/7? Well, it turns out they have a few tricks up their furry sleeves. One of the biggest is something called neoteny. It means they keep their kitten-like features and behaviors even as adults. Those big round eyes, that small nose, that adorable face, it's all designed to make us go, "Aw," and trigger our natural caregiving instincts. It's the same feeling we get when we see a human baby. They are masters of being cute. And then there's the meow. Did you know that adult wildcats don't meow at each other? It's a sound kittens make to get their mother's attention. But our domestic cats? They meow at us all the time. They've learned that it's the perfect way to communicate with humans. And get this, sometimes the frequency of their meow is similar to a human baby's cry. They are literally using a sound that we are biologically wired to respond to. So when your cat meows for food, you're not just hearing a random noise. You're being expertly manipulated by a tiny genius. It doesn't stop there. Think about when your cat kneads you with its paws, that little making biscuits motion. That's another behavior that comes straight from kittenhood. Kittens need their mother to stimulate milk flow. When an adult cat does it to you, it's a sign that they feel safe, comfortable, and see you as a source of care and comfort, like a parent. And the purr. Wild cats do it, but domestic cats have turned it into an art form. They purr when they're happy, but also when they're scared or hurt, possibly to self-soothe or to signal to us that they need help. For most of history, cats just looked like, well, cats. They weren't bred into all the different shapes and sizes like dogs were. The first recognizable breed, the Siamese, appeared in Asia around the 14th century. Their unique coloring happened naturally in an isolated population. It wasn't until the 19th century that people started breeding cats for looks. The first big cat show was in London in 1871, and that's when things like Persians became all the rage. But for thousands of years before that, a cat was just a cat, and that was more than enough. Even after thousands of years of living with us, here's the amazing part. Your house cat is still basically a wild cat. Genetically, there's very little difference between a domestic cat and its ancestor, the African wildcat. Compare that to dogs, which we've bred into everything from a tiny Chihuahua to a giant Great Dane. Cats, on the other hand, have stayed true to their roots. They are still expert hunters, built for stealth and survival. Their instincts are sharp. That's why you see them stalking a toy mouse or a dust bunny with the same intensity as a lion stalking its prey. The wild is still right there, just under the surface. This wild instinct is incredible, but it also causes some serious problems. Because they are such effective predators, outdoor domestic cats have a huge impact on local wildlife. In North America alone, it's estimated that cats kill billions, yes, billions, of birds and small animals every year. They are one of the main reasons why some bird populations are declining. In places like Australia and New Zealand, where the native animals didn't evolve with predators like cats, the damage is even worse. Feral cats are responsible for the extinction of over 60 species worldwide. It's a huge environmental issue. Because of this, some countries are taking big steps to control the problem. Australia, for example, has a plan to manage its massive feral cat population to protect its unique native wildlife, which is being devastated. New Zealand has a similar initiative called Predator Free 2050. It's a tough situation because we love our cats, but we also have to protect our ecosystems. It's a reminder that even though they sleep on our beds, our cats are still highly skilled predators, and their impact on the world is real. It's something every cat owner should think about. And just when we thought we had the whole story figured out, science comes along with a new twist. Some recent genetic research is starting to question the classic story of cat domestication. A new theory suggests that the first cats that lived alongside humans in the Fertile Crescent might not be the direct ancestors of our house cats after all. It's possible they were a different type of cat that we used for other things, like fur. This idea is still very new and needs more research, but isn't that fascinating? The story of our feline friends is still being written. One thing is for sure, they chose us, they trained us, and they've been running the show ever since.